In this session, let us learn how to compare fractions. We can compare fractions in three ways. The first method is of cross multiplication, which is used in cases where we are comparing only two fractions. The second method is for comparison of like fractions, and the third method is for comparison of unlike fractions. So we start by understanding the method of cross multiplication that is used for comparison of only two fractions. So we take example 5 by 9 and 1 by 6 here. If we wish to compare 5 by 9 with 1 by 6, we need to cross multiply them, which means that 5 into 6 and 1 into 9. So 5 gets multiplied by 6 and written on the left hand side, and 1 gets multiplied with 9 and is written on the right hand side. 5 into 6 gives us 30 and 1 into 9 gives us 9. Now the comparison is between the number 30 and number 9. We see here that number 30 is greater than number 9. So we can see 30 is greater than 9. Let's write it as left hand side is greater in its value than right hand side. So once we say that, we can also write it in the fraction form. We can say 5 by 9 is bigger than fraction 1 by 6. So this is how we compare two fractions, and that is the method of cross multiplication. Now we discuss comparison of like fractions. Like fraction means fractions having the same denominator. So example here we can take 4 by 10, 9 by 10 and 1 by 10. These are like fractions. Whenever we are comparing like fractions, we take only numerators into consideration. We compare the numerators, and whichever numerator is bigger, the fraction corresponding to that numerator will be bigger as well. So it will be greater. So here we will be comparing 4, 9 and 1. 9 is greater than 4, which in turn is greater than 1. So we can say here that the fraction 9 by 10 is greater than 4 by 10, which in turn is greater than 1 by 10. So this is comparison of like fractions. The same example we are gonna look into in a representation form. Let's say we have 3 chocolates of equal sizes. Now the word equal is very important here, and each chocolate gets divided into 10 equal parts. Now if we wish to distribute these chocolates among 3 children, and we give the first child 4 parts out of 10 equal parts, the second child we give 9 parts out of 10 equal parts, and the third child receives 1 part out of 10 equal parts. Now their respective shares will be like this, shown by the shaded area. So this is 4 parts out of 10 equal parts. The second one is 9. So we have to shade 9 parts here. So this is 9 parts out of 10 equal parts. And the third one is this, 1 part out of 10 equal parts. So just by looking at it, we can see that the child who is receiving 9 parts out of 10 equal parts is getting the maximum share. So we can write here 9 by 10 is greater, 9 parts out of 10 is greater than 4 parts out of 10, which in turn is greater than 1 part out of 10. The child who receives 1 part out of 10 is actually getting the least share. Now this is what we got when we compared the numerators. 9 is greater than 4, which in turn is greater than 1. So we can say that corresponding fractions 9 by 10 is greater than 4 by 10, which in turn is greater than 1 by 10. So comparison of like fraction is quite simple. That is, we simply compare their numerators. Now let's move on and discuss comparison of unlike fractions. Now how do we compare unlike fractions? For this, the simplest method is we convert unlike fractions into like fractions first. Since we will get like fractions, we can compare them by comparing their numerators. Now the question here is, how do we convert unlike fractions into like fractions? For this, we have to first understand LCM. LCM stands for lowest common multiple. Once we know the LCM, we can convert unlike fractions into like fractions. So let's understand this LCM. This can also be called as least common multiple. Now here we are talking about multiple. Let's understand this with an example. The example here is 5 by 12 and 1 by 18. These are unlike fractions. Now to find the LCM of this, we have to find LCM of 12 and 18. So LCM of 12 and 18 here. So these are the two numbers we have to focus on. That is the denominator of the unlike fractions. So this will be found out by comparing the tables of 12 and 18, because here they write that common multiples. We have to find the common multiples between 12 table and 18 table. So let's look into the tables of 12 and 18 and find some common multiples. Here is the table of 12 and 18. We say that the multiples that are common between these two tables are 36 here, another one 72, and 108. So these three multiples are common between these two tables, but LCM says that it should be lowest in its value, lowest common multiple. And here among these three, which one is of lowest value? 36 is of lowest value. So we can say that LCM of 12 and 18 comes out to be equal to 36. Now, is there the single method to find the LCM between 12 and 18? Is there any other method that we can use? Because in the situations where we are having more than 2 unlike fractions, like 5 unlike fractions to be compared or 10 unlike fractions to be compared, do we need to write the table of all the denominators and then find the common multiples and choose the lowest one? No, that is not needed, because there is a method by which we can find LCM. So we take the same example and we factorize 12 and 18. That is the denominators here, but this factorization has to be done together. So 12 and 18 gets factorized together. We do it 2, 6 are 12, 9. We do again by 2. We get 3 and 9. We use 3, 3 ones are and 3s are. And when we do 3 again, we get 1 and 1. Now the LCM here is going to be the product of the numbers that we are having on this side. That means LCM is equal to 2 into 2 into 3 into 3. And the product comes out to be 36. So 36 is the same as we found by comparing the tables and finding the common multiples. So factorizing the denominators together will give us the LCM. Now we know how to find the LCM of the denominators. Now let's move on and discuss how to convert unlike fractions into like fractions. For this we take example 5 by 8, 2 by 3 and 1 by 6. These are unlike fractions. To convert these unlike fractions into like fractions, step 1 is to find the LCM. Now LCM of 8, 3 and 6, the denominators, comes out to be equal to 24 here. Now once we know the LCM, the second step comes. The second step says that we have to find the equivalent fractions for all these fractions so that their denominator equals to the LCM that we just found out, that is 24. So how do we do that? 5 by 8. 8 into 3 gives us 24. So we have to multiply the numerator also with 3. So 5 3s gives us 15. So the first one becomes 15 by 24. We do similarly for the second and the third fraction. And what we get here is 16 by 24 and 4 by 24. So these are the equivalent fractions. So second step is finding the equivalent fractions with their denominator equal to the LCM. When the denominator becomes equal to the LCM, that is, they have the same denominator. So what is this? These are like fractions now. And how do we compare like fractions? Once we have the like fractions, we simply compare their numerators to find which one is bigger and which one is smaller. So here we see that 16 by 24 is bigger in its value than 15 by 24, which in turn is bigger than 4 by 24. So now writing their corresponding fractions that we started with, we can say 16 by 24 is what? It is 2 by 3. So 2 by 3 is greater than its value than 5 by 8, which in turn is greater in its value as compared to 1 by 6. So this is how we convert unlike fractions into like fractions. And once we have the like fractions here, we can simply compare their numerators to find out which one is bigger. So we discussed in all three methods of comparison of fractions. First one was cross multiplication when we are dealing with two fractions only. The second method was for comparison of like fractions, that is simply compare the numerators. The third is for comparison of unlike fractions, and the method we just learned right now to convert them into like fractions and compare their numerators. Now once we have understood this, let's move on and take up some questions here to understand them in a better way. So the first question is compare 4 by 11 with 1 by 5. Now here we have two fractions, 4 by 11 and 1 by 5. So we can solve this by cross multiplication. So how do we do that? 4 by 11 and 1 by 5 gets cross multiplied. 4 into 5 and 1 into 11. So 4 into 5 on left hand side, 1 into 11 on right hand side. So 4 into 5 is equal to 20. 1 into 11 is 11. So comparison between 20 and 11, 20 is greater than 11. So we can say that here 4 by 11 is the bigger fraction. It is greater in its value than 1 by 5. So this is how we solve when we have two fractions for comparison. Now let's do the B part. Again we are having two fractions for comparison, but this time we are having mixed fractions. So we know how to convert mixed fractions into their improper form. So we do that. 1 into 5 plus 1 by 5, and on the other side we will have 1 into 3 plus 2 by 3. So this gives us 6 by 5, and on the other side we get 5 by 3. So these are the improper fractions. So now we can compare these two fractions by cross multiplication. So 6 into 3 on the left hand side and 5 into 5 on the right hand side. 6 3s is equal to 18 and 5 into 5 is equal to 25. Now the comparison is happening between the number 18 and 25, and 18 is lesser in value than 25. So we can write that the fraction on the left hand side, that is 1 by 5, is less than fraction on the right hand side, that is 2 by 3. So by using the method of cross multiplication, we were able to compare fractions that are 2 in number. Now let's move on and look into other example. The second question says that arrange the following fractions in ascending order. Now for this part A, we see that 3 by 22, 15 by 22 and 12 by 22. Now the denominator here 22 is common. That is, it's the same. 22 makes them like fractions. So we are having like fractions here. So the method for comparison is simply compare their numerators. And since the question says that we have to arrange them in ascending order, we would write the smallest one first. So 3 is less than 12. So we write 3 by 22 is less than 12 by 22. And 12 is less than 15. So we write 12 by 22 is less than 15 by 22. So this is now arranged in the ascending order. So quite simple when we have like fractions to be compared. The B part is 4 by 3, 7 by 15, 9 by 10 and 1 by 5. These are unlike fractions. These are not the same. So first is we have to compare them into like fractions. and for that we need the LCM. LCM here for this case is equal to 30. Now once we have the LCM, we can convert these fractions into their equivalent forms with their denominator equal to 30. So let's do that. For 4 by 3, the fraction in equivalent form will become 40 by 30. For 7 by 15, it will be 14 by 30. For 9 by 10, it will become 27 by 30. And for 1 by 5, it will become 6 by 30. So now we are having 4 fractions which are like in nature. And once we have the fractions that are like in nature, we compare their numerators. So we can say here now that in ascending form. So in ascending order, the smallest one will come first. So 6 is less than 14 is less than 27 is less than 40. Now we write the corresponding fractions for all these. So we can say 1 by 5 is lesser than the fraction 7 by 15, which in turn is less than this 27 corresponds to 9 by 10, which is less than 9 by 10, which in turn is less than fraction 4 by 3. So this is the order when we compared these fractions. So we have solved the examples for comparison of fractions, and we have done for by cross multiplication as well as for like and unlike fractions. So with this we come to the end of this chapter, and we will be meeting up again in the third part of the series, which will be about addition and subtraction of fractions.